between passports because some rules. Nobody tells you.
Hello, I'm Vinny, and welcome to Between Passports. I believe that when we travel, we don't just see new places, we see ourselves differently. This project is about the life that happens in transit, my life and your life. After living as an immigrant for many years and listening to so many incredible stories, I decided it was time to share them with the world. So grab your bags, let's head out to today's episode. Hey, Vinny speaking. As you know, this project is still just starting out, so I've been reaching out to people I trust, friends who have lived these stories and are willing to share them. This week, a friend from the Philippines who's been living in Singapore for a few years now answered. I'm going to call her Anna, not her real name, but everything else? Totally hers. She started by saying that there is a line on hospital form that most people fill in without thinking. Emergency contact. Name, relationship, phone number. You have probably filled it in a dozen times. Husband, wife, mother, sibling. The pen moves before the brain even engages. It's the easiest line on the form. Anna is a nurse in Singapore. She has handed that form to hundreds of patients over 6 years. She has watched people fill it in without looking up. It has never once occurred to her that the line could be hard until the day she was the patient. She got to that line and she stopped. This is Between Passports. I'm Vinny, and this week we talk about the safety net you forgot to build while you're busy building everything else. Let me tell you about Anna. 28 years old, originally from Manila, nursing degree from one of the best programs in the Philippines, a country that produces some of the most skilled nurses in the world. She moved to Singapore at 24, passed her licensing exams, joined a public hospital, and within 2 years had become the person that the world calls when things get complicated. Not the most senior, not the one with the most certificates on her wall, but the one with the clearest head under pressure. The one who remembers what the doctor said when the patient was too scared to listen. The one who stays when the shift ends because something doesn't feel right and she needs to make sure. Her colleagues adore her. Her patients ask for her by name. She is, in every professional sense, exactly the kind of person you want in your corner when something goes wrong. The most competent people are often the loneliest. Nobody thinks to check on the person who checks on everyone. That's not a criticism, it is just true. And Anna would be the first to admit it. She had spent 4 years building a life in Singapore, a real one. She just hadn't noticed what was missing until a Tuesday afternoon, a waiting room, and a form she couldn't finish. I want to tell you what Anna built in 4 years because I think it matters. A career, senior nurse, respected, trusted, the go-to person on a ward that is always understaffed and never slows down. A flat, small, Singapore small, but entirely hers. Plants on the window that she actually remembers to water. A good coffee machine. The specific kind of comfortable that takes years to assemble and that you only recognize as home once you have been away from it long enough to miss it. A routine. The hawker stall downstairs where the uncle already knows her order. The route she runs on Sunday mornings through the botanic garden when the city is still quiet. The night market she goes to alone, without it feeling lonely, which is a skill actually. It takes time to be comfortable alone in a crowd in a city that isn't yours. She had built a life, a full, functional, genuinely good life. What she hadn't built, and this is the part I keep coming back to, was a safety net. Not because she didn't want one, not because she was closed off or difficult or bad at friendships. None of that. Just because building a life turns out to be a full-time job. And the safety net is always the thing you mean to get to next. Her family is in Manila, 2,500 miles away, or a little bit over 4,000 kilometers away. A 4-hour flight, which sounds manageable until it's 2 in the morning and something is wrong and you don't need a flight. You need someone to sit next to you. Here's something nobody tells you when you move abroad. Back home, the people you spend time with are either friends or strangers. Friends are the ones you call. Strangers are everyone else, basically. There is not much of a middle ground. The line is clear. But when you move to a new country, especially alone, and especially into a professional environment, you discover a third category that doesn't have a clean name: colleagues. Not strangers. You know their coffee order. You know who is going through a difficult time at home. You cover for each other on long shifts. You have an in joke about the consultant who always loses his pen. You actually like them. They like you, but not quite friends. Not the kind of friend you call at midnight. Not the kind of friend who has a key to your flat. Not the kind of friend whose number goes on the emergency contact line of a hospital form. Anna had colleagues, wonderful ones, a whole ward of people who respected her and would go out of their way for her professionally. And the gap between colleague and friend, that specific gap, is where a lot of immigrants quietly live for longer than they expect without ever quite naming it. Anna had filled in that form for hundreds of patients. She thought she understood what the blank meant. She didn't, not until it was her name at the top. It was a routine procedure, nothing serious, the kind of thing that gets scheduled on a Tuesday because it doesn't need to be a Friday emergency. Anna had taken the morning off work, got herself to the hospital, sat in the waiting room, and accepted the clipboard when the nurse, younger than her, kind, efficient, handed it across the desk. She filled it in quickly: name, date of birth, address, insurance details, all the things she had filled in for other people. Easy. And then she got to the line: emergency contact. Now, Anna knows what the line is for. She knows it better than most people sitting in that waiting room. She knows that in a real emergency, that name is the one who gets the phone call at 2 in the morning, the one who makes decisions if you can't, the one who is told first. She has made those calls. She has been the voice on the other end, steady and calm, saying, "You need to come now." She looked at the blank. She thought of her mother in Manila, who would come, no questions, would be on the first flight, but who was 4,000 kilometers away and needed a local name, a Singapore name, someone who could be there in 20 minutes. She looked around her life. The most capable person in that hospital, 6 years of building a life in Singapore, a career, a flat, a routine, a real life. And she could not fill in a single line on a form. She left it blank, folded the form, handed it back. The nurse didn't notice or didn't say anything. Anna went in, had the procedure, was fine. Physically, she was fine.
Enjoying this story? Follow us so you don't miss the next one.
Now, I want to stop here and ask you something, because this is the question Anna couldn't stop asking herself. If something happened to you tonight, not a catastrophe, just something less dramatic, who would you call? Not your family back home, someone physically in your city, someone who could be there in 20 minutes. Take a second, actually think about it, because most people who move abroad have that blank. They have just never been handed a form that asks them to fill it in. Drop your answers in the comment. I read every single one, and I want to know if yours surprised you. After the procedure, Anna went home. She made rice, the automatic kind of cooking you do when you're thinking about something else, you know? She called her mother. She didn't tell her about the farm. Her mother would worry, would ask too many questions, would start quietly researching flight prices without saying so, and Anna would hear it in her voice. That specific shift that Filipino mothers do when they are trying very hard not to helicopter from 4,000 kilometers away. So she just talked about work, about weather, about the uncle downstairs at the hawker stall who had started saving her the last bowl of congee on late shifts, which is its own small complete kindness. She talked about everything and nothing, in the way you do when the call is really just about hearing a familiar voice. After she hung up, she sat for a while. Not sad exactly, more like awake. Awake to something she had been half aware of for a long time and had kept meaning to address. The way you notice a dripping tap and keep thinking you will deal with it. And then one day you actually deal with it. She picked up her phone, not to call anyone, to send a text. And the person she texted and why she almost didn't is the part of this story I keep thinking about. There was a colleague at the hospital, Priya, from Chennai, 2 years in Singapore, a senior nurse on a different ward. They had worked together, covered shifts for each other, shared a lunch table more times than Anna could count. She liked Priya. Honestly, there was something easy and unforced about her, a specific kind of warmth that Anna had noticed from the beginning, but had never quite acted it on. Because there is a moment, and you probably know that, where a work friendship either crosses into something more or it stays exactly where it is. And both people are usually waiting for the other one to make the move. Anna typed, "Do you want to go get coffee this week? Outside of here?" She almost deleted it. Sent it anyway. Priya replied in 4 minutes. "Yes, finally. I've been meaning to ask you for months." 4 minutes and months. Two people in the same building, both waiting, both almost asking. One farm on a Tuesday was what it took.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain speaking.
As you know, I went back to my old sociology books and I did some digging online. And I want to give you a framework for what happened to Anna, because I think it's important that we name this properly, not as a personal failure, but as something structural. Sociologists and well being researchers have a concept called social capital, the network of people who would actually show up for you, not followers, not contacts, not LinkedIn connections, people. People with the key to your flat who know your medical history. Studies on immigration well being consistently find the same pattern. Professional integration happens fast. You get the job, the routine, the city knowledge. But social integration, the deep kind, takes years. Sometimes it never fully catches up. When you compare immigrant professional integration versus social integration, this is how it usually goes. Professional integration usually takes between 6 and 12 months on average, and deep social integration can take between 3 and 5 years, often incomplete. The gap between them is where Anna lived, where a lot of us live. Anna wasn't isolated. She had a calendar, a social life, a ward full of people who cared about her. But researchers call these thin social ties, connections that are wide but not deep, broad enough to feel okay, but not strong enough to hold weight when you actually need them to. Thin social ties are invisible until you pick it up a form and find the blank staring back at you. This is not Anna's fault, not a failure of personality or warmth or effort. It is a structural reality of what it means to build a life from scratch in a country that is not yours, and almost nobody talks about it. Anna told me something near the end of our conversation that I have been carrying around. She said, "In the Philippines, you never have to think about your safety net. It is just there. Family, neighbors, the whole structure around you. It holds you without you ever asking it to. You don't build it. You are born into it. When you leave, you have to build it yourself, consciously, intentionally, and nobody tells you that, because it feels like the kind of thing that should just happen." She and Priya have coffee now, every week, usually Saturday mornings. Priya has a friend from Chennai who knew someone from Manila, and they have all somehow assembled a small group. Not large, not the community she grew up inside of, but real, present. A few months after that Tuesday, Anna had a different appointment, different ward, different form, same clipboard. She got to the emergency contact line. She didn't stop this time. This is not a small thing. For someone who moved 4,000 kilometers alone, built a life from nothing, and then had to learn, consciously, one slightly terrifying text message at a time, how to let people in. This is not a small thing at all. Anna, if you are listening, Priya is lucky, and so are you, even if it took a form on a Tuesday to figure that out. If you have a story like this, a moment where you looked around your life abroad and found a gap you hadn't expected, I want to hear it. Come find us at BetweenPassports.com. Between Passports is on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, and Amazon Music. Daily moments on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. Search Between Passports or come find us at BetweenPassports.com. I'm Vinny. This is Between Passports, where we ask the question nobody wants to answer out loud. Do I hear an accent?
We are Between Passports. Glad you're here. Share your story at betweenpassports.com.